This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. When you visit the doctor, you probably hand over your insurance, your ID, and contact details. It's just one of the many places that has your personal info. And if any of them accidentally expose it, you could be at risk for identity theft. LifeLock monitors millions of data points a second. If you become a victim, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year at lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
You're tuned into Auto Intelligence, live from Auto Trader, where data, tools, and your preferences sync to make your car shopping smooth.
They're searching inventory.
Oh, yeah.
They find what you need.
They're gonna find it.
You can make a budget for your wallet to help you succeed. Pricing's precise and true.
So true.
It's smarter car shopping.
Ooh.
Just for you.
Oh, it's just for you.
Ooh.
Find your next ride at autotrader.com. Powered by Auto Intelligence.
Welcome to Your Call, presented by the Headset app, the sideline communication tool built for football coaches. Today, we're joined by Coach Josh Lindke, head coach at Toledo St. Francis. Coach Lindke shares his journey from being a young assistant, learning through trial by fire, to leading St. Francis through one of the toughest stretches in program history and building it back to a place of belief, brotherhood, and pride. His story is about vision, resilience, and what it takes to transform a struggling program into a destination job. Before we get going, let's hear from our partner, the Headset app.
The Headset app, a communication platform for coaches that makes sense. After all the technology we need is already in our pocket. No more time-consuming setup, lugging around cases, storing equipment, worrying about range, or finding the right location for your base station. The Headset app is an encrypted voice platform that is compatible with any Bluetooth headset or earbuds. The Headset app is a more secure, reliable, and easy-to-use communication system, delivered at just a fraction of the cost. Just open the app, put in your headphones, and go. At practice, on game day, or whenever. The Headset app. Download in the App Store or on Google Play today.
Here's our conversation with Coach Josh Lindke.
What's going on, guys? My name is Josh Lindke. I am the head football coach at Toledo St. Francis DeSales, getting ready to go into our second year here at St. Francis. And a little bit of a unique story. I'm 31 years old, going on 32. This is actually my second stop at St. Francis. Obviously, the first as a head coach, but I was an assistant back in 17 and 18. This program has notoriously been bad the last couple of years. Back in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, when the legendary head coach Dick Cromwell was there, they were the best of the best in Toledo. So falling on hard times, when I was hired, I was the sixth head coach in 5 years here. I'd coached at other places like Toledo Central Catholic, who's our big rival. I was the head coach at Otsego for 2 years before I got this job. Been an assistant at the college level as a student assistant at BGSU with Dino Babers and Mike Jinks. Got my career started at Anthony Wayne, where I graduated from, and worked for the guy that I played for, and Craig Smith. So I've had a ton of experiences at a multitude of different stops, and I've been really fortunate to be around some really good people. Was able to be around Coach Dempsey at Toledo Central Catholic, which is a high-level program, and they've won a number of state titles since Coach has been there. And so I was able to really learn, how to run a championship program. Back in 17 and 18, I was actually working here at St. Francis with former head coach Dan Chipka, previous multitude of head coaches prior, but was here and was the offensive coordinator at 23 years old and really had zero idea what I was doing. But it was trial by fire, right? Dan gave me an opportunity. I was coming out as a student assistant, my first time calling plays in a spread offense. I was a wing T guy in high school, coached in it, my first coaching job. So it was trial by fire, and I appreciate Dan giving me that opportunity. So, my first kind of interaction with St. Francis back in 17 and 18, it was a unique place, I thought, at the time. And I always thought that the building blocks could be there to have a sustainable program and have a program that was going to, go attack a program like Central Catholic and try to claim back some of that prestige that once was, since Coach Cromwell had left years prior. So was there in 17 and 18, got to know Father Rose, who's currently still one of the head oblates here, one of the head priests. I'm at St. Francis, and got to know John Hall, who's our principal now, who was the AD at the time. And, and then when I took that job over at Central, who was a big rival of ours at the time, or still a big rival, never in a million years did I think that I would be back at St. Francis now, later as the head football coach. But it's funny how life works and how things kind of turn themselves around. When I was at Otsego, I left Central in 2021. I knew I wanted to be a head coach. I felt like I was ready after 3 years being there. and got the job at Otsego. So we actually just did a clinic talk about this out in Utah for their state clinic. But we took over a program at Otsego that was really good, really healthy at the time. They were 22-2 over the last 2 years prior. They had a regional final appearance, Final Four appearance. They were regional champs in the COVID year, NBC champs, so league champs back-to-back years. So tons of success. And the guy that had been the head coach there, Matt Jurawal, had been there for a number of years. And he had decided that some health issues were getting in the way and it was time for him to step down. It happened late. It happened in March. So I was already in the mindset I was going back to Central for a fourth year, and we were getting geared up and getting ready to go for the summertime at that point. And I knew a few people at Otsego, so decided to throw my name in the ring and ended up getting the job at 28 years old as a first-time head coach. So again, I'm back in that similar position of where I was at the first time I was at St. Francis. Zero idea, trial by fire, right? You really don't have any idea until you sit in the seat. So that's kind of the biggest thing I'll say about being a head coach, and whether it's a young head coach or a seasoned vet, you really don't have any idea what that job is going to entail and what it looks like until you sit in the seat. And it's daily that stuff comes across your desk that you got to learn on the fly to deal with. And I was taking over a program that, had a number of assistants that wanted to stay. They were really high level assistants. I had a number of guys in the building there, but I was kind of the outsider, right? I was the young guy, first time head coach. There had been guys on the staff there had been head coaches before that had coached a lot of high level football. They had just coming off back-to-back years. And I was kind of looked at the guy that was like, okay, he's coming from a place like Central Catholic, but what does he know about us? It was a small rural farming community. I'm from the city of Toledo. I went to Anthony Wayne, but from the city of Toledo, and I'd been in the city for a number of years, coaching out here at a number of different stops, like St. Francis, like Central Catholic. And so found myself at a place that I didn't feel very comfortable at, right? And I kind of had to learn on the fly. And I think I got myself into this mindset, and this is kind of what I'm going to talk about. That's something that's helped our program now that I'm going to lead into, taking over a poor program in St. Francis. But there's a lot of lessons that I learned taking over a really good program for a really good coach, and then taking over a program that was really bad, and kind of the way that I evolutionized myself, so to speak, as a young head coach. So we took over that program at Otsego, and we went 6-4 our first year, and then we went 4-6 the second year, missed the playoffs the first year, ironically, but then made it the second year with the losing record just because of how the region shook out. And I feel like I look back at that time and I wasn't in a good place mentally. I wasn't in a good place health-wise. I wasn't in a good place in a number of different areas of my life, and everything was so focused on winning. That's all I focused on as a young head coach, was just winning as many games as possible. Because coming from a place with a lot of prestige like Central, I got so caught up in we've got to win games. And then we took over a good program, which is what I wanted. When we took over it, I was not looking for a rebuild. I was looking for a sustained program that was ready for continued success and things of that nature. And unfortunately, it's a lot more difficult than I thought it was. And I think that's what it's important. If there's any young guys in here that are looking to become a head coach, fit matters. Fit matters more than anything. And I think, this is going to bring me back to now being at St. Francis. But, John Hall had been reaching out to me for a couple of years about this job. And, I was happy at Otsego. On the outside, I was happy, but I think on the inside, I was struggling internally big time about where I was going with this. And I had actually at one point throughout that process thought that I was just going to quit coaching altogether. I was going to be a 2-year head coach and then just kind of call it quits and maybe be an assistant somewhere, or just stop coaching football and get into another profession. Those were thoughts that I was having because I was so burnt out and I was so putting so much pressure on myself. And I just think the fit wasn't great. It doesn't mean that I made the wrong choice. I think that, looking back in hindsight, it's easy to say that. But I think as I look forward now and the spot that I'm in now, I think that I see that the day-to-day stuff and the 1% betters and, taking things day by day and truly trusting the process and getting yourself involved in the process and falling in love with the process is the most important thing as a head coach. It's not the wins and losses on Friday night. It's not getting to Friday. It's all the stuff in between. And if you can fall in love with that process as a head coach, then you can do this for a really long time. And you can see why guys could be at places for 30 years, right? If it's so focused on just the wins and losses and making sure that's all that matters on Friday, yeah, that's wildly important. It's massively important. But you got to make sure that you're in tune with what the daily outlook of your program is going to look like and how you're just kind of taking those incremental steps every day to get better. And if you don't love that part of it, then you're not going to last very long as a head football coach because it's going to burn you out. So fast forward, I was finishing my second year at Otsego and I'm starting to get some feelers out there about this St. Francis job. St. Francis coming off a season where they were 1-9. In the past 4 seasons combined, they were 7-33. 5 head coaches in 4 years. Previous head coach got fired 4 games in. So kind of a dumpster fire, a pretty big mess, you could say, over here with this job. And nobody was touching this job with a 10-foot pole. Everybody and their brother thought I was crazy for even entertaining this idea, but I saw the vision. I saw what this could turn into. I felt like with the right person in charge and the right mindset, I'm in the right temperament in charge. And St. Francis is a unique place, and it's not a place that you're going to go in and change as the head football coach, because the institution is more important than the football program. But if you've got the guy in charge that can understand that, and kind of that Notre Dame model, that Marcus Freeman has adopted a little bit, where it's a special place. And if you allow it to kind of change your life and you allow it to change you can do a lot of special things there. So that's kind of the mindset I took with this job, and I ended up getting hired pretty quickly in December, so right after that fall of 2023, and got hired, and we were taking over a 1-9 program, and we were taking over a program that was just bad, flat out bad. I mean, that's the only way I could put it. Embarrassing. I mean, the alumni base is big here, and people love their football at St. Francis, and coming off the times of winning state titles with Coach Cromwell and being the class of the city. And this place had really fallen on hard times. There was a couple Blade articles written about the program and kind of the state it was in, and the publicity was not good. And so they, as much as I felt like St. Francis needed me in a certain extent, I needed St. Francis too as well, with the state that I was in. And it ended up being a perfect marriage of just, we didn't have a ton of expectations, and we came in and we just worked our butts off and got to work. And I think the biggest thing that we did, and I guess you can attest this from taking over a bad program and building belief, because I think that's the biggest thing you have to do when you take over a bad program, is somehow you've got to build belief. And I think the way that we build belief in our kids was it started from the top with me, and then trickled down to everybody, that I treated this like a destination job from day one, and it's got to be. And it still is to me. I want to be here for the next 25 years and win state titles and be known as the program in the city of Toledo. And so with treating it in that sense, and not treating this like a stop along the way to raise my profile and raise my career, I think that's gotten us to a point where now the kids believe, right? And so, it just took somebody from the top to understand that there was talent here, and the kids had a chance to do something special if they really wanted to. And so, we took over a 1-9 program, and we had a number of different issues. There had been no legit weight room program for 4 years, so kids were kind of doing whatever they wanted. Our first weight room session in the morning in the dead middle of winter, I think we had 9 kids show up, and for a big Division II school, that was a huge problem. Our first 7-on-7, we went and scrimmaged, St. Mary's Catholic Central up in Monroe, and they were a small school up there. They were just in the state title game up in Michigan this past season, so really good program. But I think our first 15 throws were incomplete, whether it was an overthrow, whether it was an underthrow, whether it was a drop ball. So you could see we had talent, but it was the belief of what was going on, and then in themselves was not there. And I think instead of freaking out on the kids, and instead of, maybe overcoaching, and instead of, making excuses, we just kept plugging away, just kept working, and kept telling them that you guys got this, and you guys can believe in yourselves, and I believe in you guys. I think you guys are special, and I think you guys got a ton of talent, and we will get there. We just kept chipping away, and we started building that brotherhood again. And that's kind of something we say at St. Francis, is the brotherhood. And I did a clinic talk a couple weeks back where we showed clips from the same exact game a year prior, and where kids were giving up left and right. And it was embarrassing to watch, where that same exact kind of clip or situation is showing up, and our kids are dominating now because they believe in what they're doing, and they believe in this program. We ended up going 7-3 in the regular season, beat one of our longtime rivals in Toledo St. John's, first time in 10 years. Won a playoff game at Avon Lake, who's notoriously a good program, tough to go play, beat them, and it ended up getting beat by Medina Highland in the second round, who was a really good program as well over there in the Cleveland areas. Finished the season 8-4, and we got a ton of momentum going now. We've got kids interested in wanting to come here, and I think we feel like we have a program again. And that was the biggest thing that we talked about from day one, is that my job as the head football coach was to figure out how to make this a program again, and not just a 2024 football team, right? And I think that was what was going on for a number of years. Was it's a 23 team, the 22 team, and every team every year was a mess, where now we became a program. And we hope that we've become a program to reckon with. And I think that it all started with just myself at the top, and my staff, and our leaders within our program just believing that we could get to that point and not making any more excuses. So that's been a really unique transformation. And like I said, St. Francis has been really good to me, and we hope to be really good to them for a number of years going forward. And just we're excited about the path and the trajectory of what our program is going to do. And I think that, when you take over a bad program, there's a reason that job's open, right? It's not a good job. You got to make it a good job. And I think that's the key in all this, is be where your feet are at and work your butt off to where you become the destination job, right? Don't go looking for the destination job. You become the destination job. Just make sure you've got the tools in place to understand that the administration understands what you're trying to do, and the teachers, and getting everybody on board. And rather than thinking that football is the most important thing and thinking that you're the most important show, integrate yourself into the school and let that program wrap its arms around you, and good things will happen. So like I said, we're excited about where we're going. And, belief is the most important thing. You got to build belief in yourself, and you got to build belief in those kids that you can get that thing turned around. So those are some big things that I learned from taking over a really good program and then taking over a bad program. It's really helped our program here at St. Francis going forward. We're excited about the future, what we're going to do. So go Big Red.
That was Coach Josh Lindke of Toledo St. Francis on Your Call, presented by the Headset app. The Headset app helps coaches eliminate miscommunication, streamline sideline operations, and stay connected when it matters most on game night. To learn more, visit theheadsetapp.com or click the link in the show notes. Thanks for listening to Your Call. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future conversations with the coaches making an impact on and off the field.